My name is Ahmad Lopes. I was born in Great Britain in 1899. I was 15 when I was recruited in the army with Chaba Lover. He whispered in my ear and said, "The Great War has begun."
Europe was divided in alliances. The Triple Alliance that had Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy, that later left, and also there was the other alliance that was triple intended, was England, France, and Russia. It was thought that if they had alliances, no one would declare war to no one, but they were completely wrong. Before the Great War, the European countries had colonies in Asia and Africa. The amount of colonies you had defined the amount of power you had. That was called imperialism. The European government financed a lot of money to their army, with better weapons and more soldiers. This also determined the power you had. It was called militarism. There was a big rivalry between the European countries for territory and market. This was called nationalism.
I remember that day in the morning. My mom was cooking breakfast for us. My dad read out the newspaper out loud. He said, Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated by some guy named Gavrilo Princip in Bosnia. I never thought his death caused so much trouble, but a month later, Great Britain was recruiting an army.
Austria-Hungary declared war to Serbia on July 28th, and within a week, all of the great powers in Europe were at war. Russia was the quickest to be removed of the war because of the pressure that Germany was putting in them and some internal problems. They were forced to retreat.
One of the worst things at war was being in the trenches. You had to stay there for months, even years, waiting to kill or be killed. Sometimes we were so bored that some put their helmets on and see if the bullet traps past the metal. It was kind of fun, if you were not wearing the helmet.
Years later, the US gets involved in the war because the Germans sunk a ship full of citizens, and also the Zimmerman telegraph that was sent to Mexico influenced a lot into the contribution of the US in the war.
The consequences of the Treaty of Versailles was that Germany was forced to give territories to Belgium, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. Germany returned to Alsace and Lorraine, conquered in 1871 after Franco-Prussian War, to France, and the treaty demanded non-military and occupation of the Rhineland and special status for the Saarland under French.
One day later, after the war finished, we headed back home when suddenly Chava tripped and died. Some might remember him as a hero, but I always remember him as a cerote.
Now I'm going to talk about the Great Depression. The Great Depression in the United States was the worst and longest economic collapse in the history of the modern industrial world, lasting from the end of the 1929 until the early 1940s. Beginning in the United States, the Depression spread to most of the world industrial countries, which in the 20th century had become economically dependent on one another. Some of the causes of the Great Depression were the stock market crash of 1929. The stock market crash that occurred on Black Tuesday, October 29 of 1929, it was one of the major causes that led to the Great Depression. 2 months after the original crash in October, stockholders had lost more than $40 billion. And the second cause was bank failures. Through the 1930s, over 9,000 of banks failed.
I'm going to talk about the causes of this event. First is the humiliating treatment given out to the Germany by the Treaty of Versailles created a sense of hatred and revenge among the Germans. And then the failure of the League of Nations to check aggression and preserve world peace all greatly contributed to the rise of totalitarian regimes.
Could you please define totalitarianism?
Yes, it's a system of government in which a leader or a dictator has complete control over his country and the lives of his people.
last appearance of the totalitarian regime was with the fascism in Italy and Germany at the 19th century. After World War I, the country was impoverished, the government was weak, and had many disagreements because Italy did not agree with the conclusions of the Versailles Pact.
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started. Wait, the earth began to cool, the autotrophs began to drool, Neanderthals developed tools, we built a wall. We built the pyramids. Math, science, history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a big bang.